Welcome to this afternoon's webinar on Boschendal in South Africa. As is always the case with our webinars, we will be recording this afternoon's presentation, so don't panic if you have to leave halfway through. I will be sending you all a follow-up email with a copy of the recording, as well as other useful information that you may need in selling Boschendal, including images, rates, fact sheets, and copies of our films we have. Boschendal is South Africa's second largest and second oldest wine estate. It is located about 45 minutes from Cape Town Airport and about 10 minutes from Franschhoek. So it's really, really accessible for guests who are staying in Cape Town, but also want to maybe come to the winelands and be near Franschhoek, which is really the kind of the heart of this amazing culinary area of South Africa. So Boschendal itself was founded in 1685, so it has this incredible heritage. And as I mentioned, it's just 10 minutes outside Franschhoek. For those of you who know this area, it is about 10 minutes from Del Graaf as well on the main road coming from Stellenbosch before you turn right to go to Franschhoek. And it's about 5 minutes from Babylonstoren as well. So this whole valley, the whole Franschhoek Valley, is just absolutely absolutely brimming with amazing eating areas, vineyards. There's so much to see and do in the Franschhoek Valley. And yet it's so close to Cape Town. So it's a really great twin centre with that city experience as well. This is a map of the estate. So what's incredible about Boschendal is, although it's absolutely huge, it's 1,800 hectares as an estate, the actual accommodation options are quite small and intimate. So you never feel like you're part of this huge kind of machine. You feel like you're staying somewhere really quite small and intimate, yet have access to this amazing kind of array of activities that is on offer in Boschendal. Really the kind of heart of the estate is around Boschendal, the Manor House, which is down here on the bottom right corner. And this is the original Manor House, and these beautiful outbuildings, what we call the Vaf, have now been converted into a deli, a restaurant. We have a farm shop there, which is a new addition, a butchery. But there's a beautiful path leading up to kind of tree-lined avenue, really leading up to the Manor House, which, as you'll see in some of the images I've got, is really the kind of the centre of a lot of different activities. They've just launched these amazing Friday night markets, and they're all laid up along the beautiful big tree-lined avenue going up to the Manor House. So this is really the kind of heart of the estate. And then the nearest accommodation we have to the Manor House is what we call our Vaf Garden Suites. And there are 7 of these, 3 small and 3 large. These are all 1-bedroom units. So they're perfect for guests who maybe want to be, maybe an older couple who don't want to be quite so far away, who want to be within very easy walking distance of the restaurant and this whole kind of hub really of the estate. Off here to the bottom left-hand corner, I hope you can see my cursor, is really where we tend to send most of our day trippers. So Boschendal, the wine is very, very famous. So we have a lot of people coming to do wine tasting on a day trip. So what Boschendal do is they then, as they come to the main entrance, they'll filter off to the right, to this area here. And that's where they'll stay to do their wine tasting. So it's really nice as a guest. You don't feel like you've got huge numbers of day trippers coming in because they're actually filtered off to a different area. So here we have the winery, the Rhone Homestead and the cellar door, and also our Rhodes Gardens, which is where we have our picnics during the week in the summer. But this is really where the day trippers tend to go. Over the road is where most of the accommodation is. So we have a variety of accommodation that will suit various different types of people. So the Orchard Cottages, which is what you see in the middle of the map, are 14 units, and they are 1, 2, 3, and 4 bed. So these work brilliantly for families or small groups traveling together. We actually stayed at Boschendal as a family a few years ago before they were a client, and we stayed in the Auction Cottages, and they are just absolute heaven for kids because you have this huge expanse of beautiful orchard for them to run around, but also this outdoor pool. But also just behind the Orchard Cottages are the Simmonsburg Mountains. So you have, Boschendal has 65 kilometres of mountain biking and walking trails. So as a family, we just all hired bikes. We cycled from the main trail centre, mountain bike trail centre, which is here down in the bottom, near the main manor house, and just cycled everywhere. So we had this kind of playground on our back doorstep, which was just absolute heaven. So there are 14 orchard cottages. And then we also have the retreat, which is over here to the right-hand side, which is 17 two-bed units. These are really for maybe if you have weddings or conferences, but also in peak season, you can take them out as an individual unit as well on an FIT basis. But they tend to be used most of the year as a kind of conference or wedding, event space, really. Then we have behind Orchard Cottages, we have our 3 exclusive use houses. So we have Rhodes Cottage, which is our real heritage offering. That dates back to 1685. And that's the cottage was actually built for Cecil John Rhodes. He apparently spent one night there and then unfortunately passed away, not in the cottage, somewhere else. But it has this amazing kind of heritage, and you'll see by the design, it's really kind of celebrated, that history is really celebrated through the interior design. We then have Trout Cottage, which is a gorgeous little 3-bedroom cottage right up in the mountains, right next to this beautiful big open lake. So great for families who just want to escape away from it all and be right up in the mountains. And then we have a new addition to our accommodation, which is Mountain Villa. So this joined the portfolio last year, and it's a beautiful 6-bedroom villa right up in the hills, amazing views in the Frantic Valley. So that's a really exciting new offering. Over here to the right, to the end, the bottom of the kind of mountains, the foot of the mountains, is our Boschendal tented camp. This was due to open April last year, and for obvious reasons has been actually put on ice until international guests really start coming back in numbers. They were literally about to open their doors, and then they decided to actually just pause whilst the world's in turmoil. But it's a 7 bedrooms or 7 different units, tented camp, and the idea is it's just complete immersion. It's like being on safari but in the winelands. So you leave your car down the main car park, you're driven up by a safari vehicle, you're taken on guided hikes into the mountains. It's all kind of no Wi-Fi, completely, a digital detox, but really like being on safari but in the winelands. So it's a really fun addition to the offering. So I'll go into the accommodation in a bit more detail a bit later on in the presentation, but what I just want to illustrate here is this is the PDF that I can send you, but it's just a huge variety of accommodation options that Boschendal have. And bearing in mind the estate is 1,800 hectares, whilst it feels like a lot, in terms of the space, it's actually very, very small. And it has this very kind of intimate, all of them have a very kind of intimate feeling. So you never feel like you're part of a big kind of organization, a big kind of machine. You feel like you're staying somewhere that's really quite intimate and personal, but yet has this amazing playground on our doorstep. So as I mentioned, what's included in our stays is guided hikes. You can do hiking with a guide. You've got 65 kilometers to go and explore. Every guest gets offered a farm tour that happens every morning. Really, Boschendal, they got taken over by new owners about 6 years ago, and the big focus over the last 6 years has been in really the farm and the regeneration of the farm. And they are really proud of what they've achieved. So they really try and encourage guests to actually get out there and experience it with them, go on a farm tour and learn about the kind of historic and present day workings of the farm. As I mentioned, you've got mountain bike trails, and we've also got lots of outdoor swimming. So we have various different dams and lakes on the estate that guests can go swimming in. But obviously being in this area, it's really all about the food and the wine as well. As I mentioned, Boschendal has got award-winning wine, but they also have award-winning restaurant as well. The Vaf Restaurant is our restaurant, our more formal restaurant, and the deli is our more informal dining. We also launched a new farm shop last year, and this has proven to be really successful. So this is great for guests who either want to be a bit more independent and do more self-catering option, or for guests just coming in on day trips to come to the farm shop. The Boschendal garden picnics are absolutely like an absolute icon of the vineyards, of the winelands. You can't, even if you're not staying at Boschendal, you can't come to the winelands and not do a Boschendal picnic. So during the summer they happen, and in peaks, in summer season at weekends, they actually have live music as well. And then during the weekdays they have them done in their Rose Garden. So if you can, try and book your guests in on a weekend, because honestly, it's absolute heaven, lying on these big hammocks or bean bags under the trees with live music playing and beautiful big hamper and beautiful wine. It's just my idea of heaven. It was a real highlight of our family holiday a few years ago, or particularly for me and my husband. And then we also obviously have wine tasting. We also have horses, so you can go horse riding as well. And a big focus on Boschendal is about the children. 2 years ago, they launched the Tree House, which is what they call their edu play centre, but they're kind of outdoor kids club really. And not only do they have an amazing playground, but they also have a huge variety of activities they put on for the kids, which is free for guests that are staying there. It's free to book your kids into the Tree House, and trust me, they won't want to leave. And again, a new addition to launch last year, the last 6 months, is our Boschendal markets. So these happen on a Friday night. We have a Friday night market, and we also have a Saturday morning organic market as well. So these have been really good, and particularly over the last few months with not having any international guests, really engaging the local guests, the local customers as well. So they come on a Friday night and a Saturday morning, and these will be running permanently, so going on to next year as well, but obviously only in spring and summertime. So I'll probably finish kind of in May, but they've been hugely popular. So this is the actual original manor house, which is, as I say, is really the heart of the estate. And this is the actual manor house itself, tends to be used for events or wine tasting. There's no accommodation actually in the manor house. The accommodation is in different areas around the estate. So as I mentioned, the Vaf Cottages, our 7 Vaf Cottages are nearest to the main manor house. So if you've got older couples or couples who don't want to be kind of further away, they want to be within walking distance, and this is probably the best option for them. They're small and large suites, and these rates are in pounds because we predominantly look after the UK market, but I can send you through the round rates. But these rates are per unit price, and they're on a bed and breakfast rate, basis as well. So it's very affordable. That's the other key thing about Boschendal, it's very affordable. And then these are obviously the exclusive use house rates as well. And then Mountain Villa, which is our new addition. So these are the Vaf Garden Cottages. These are the large ones, and there's plenty of space. If you do have maybe a couple with one child, there's plenty of space to put up an additional bed or cot. But I personally, if you've got kids that are maybe a little bit older and want to get a bike and cycle around, then definitely Orchards is the best place for them. And then these are the small garden suites. So really beautifully styled. And then Orchard Cottages are, as the name suggests, located in this amazing orchard at the foot of the Simmonsburg Mountains. And they are 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedrooms. So this is a 2-bedroom unit with the 2 bedrooms either side, kitchen, sitting room area in the middle, outside braai area and dining area, and then just a huge expanse of orchard for the kids to explore. So really quite contemporary in style. As I mentioned, each unit has, every accommodation option has a kitchen and dining area. So if guests do want to be a bit more self-catered, they can do. We have a lot of guests actually who request a braai box from the butchery and from the farm shop, so they can actually cook their own braai, but obviously using produce from the farm. So this is the orchard pool that the 14 units share, and then the retreat. So these are the 17 2-bedroom units. Really cool and contemporary in style. As I mentioned, tends to be used mainly for maybe conferences or incentive groups or weddings. But actually during peak season, they're now going to be letting them out on an FIT, the individual units on an FIT basis. This is Cottage 1685, which was built for Cecil John Rhodes. This actually comes with its own team of staff. And as you can see, the interior design is more kind of traditional in style, really celebrating the heritage of the cottage. So there are 3 bedrooms in the main cottage, and then they also built an annex which has 2 further bedrooms in it. So they can seat 10 people in total, and the annex and cottage share a pool. So they're booked as one unit, although the annex is a separate building to the cottage. Then this is Trout Cottage, which is our little 3-bedroom cottage, perfect for families or groups who just want to be up in the mountains next to this beautiful big open lake. And then Mountain Villa, which joined the portfolio about 6 months ago. This is a 6-bedroom villa right up in the hills, as you can see from the views, just absolutely stunning views. So sleeps 12 people. Again, they have you'll have your breakfast cooked for you by your own member of your own staff, but they tend to then, if you want maybe dinner cooked for you as well, that will be an additional cost. We can organise it, no problem. But what we find is a lot of guests, obviously being so no-frantic, actually like to go out for lunch or dinner into the surrounding areas as well. And then the tented camp, which is being put on ice for the time being. So 7 tents right next to a beautiful big open lake, and the main kind of mess tent was built on the overlooking the open lake as well. So the idea behind this is really a kind of going on safari in the winelands. So you leave your car down in the main car park, you're driven up by a safari vehicle, all the food is cooked over an open fire. It's all about hiking up in the mountains. No Wi-Fi, no electricity. So it's just a great option for completely, immersing yourself in nature, but yet only 45 minutes from Cape Town. But really, for all guests staying there, they cannot help but be, really overwhelmed by the size of the estate, but also the operation. It's a working farm. They work really closely with the local community. They really celebrate what they do in terms of the farm. 90% of the produce that we use on the farm is actually sourced from the farm. So it's absolutely like farm to fork. They do bread making classes every morning, so if guests want to join in the bread making. Then our Vaf Restaurant is our award-winning restaurant. This is where you'll have breakfast if you didn't want to have breakfast in your room. So the rates are on B&B, and normally guests will have a breakfast hamper, but if not, they can come down to the restaurant to have breakfast in the restaurant. But all the produce is sourced from the farm. So menus will change daily according to the harvest, sometimes even twice a day. There's a lot of produce in harvest, coming into harvest at that time. And then the deli is our more informal dining options. This is more brunches, lunches, but again, all the food is sourced on site and made on site. And then Boschendal picnics are, as I mentioned, an absolute kind of iconic part of being in the wineland. So you have these beautiful big hampers, lots of delicious food in them, and obviously amazing wine, live music at weekends. It's just absolute heaven. So a new introduction in last year has been our Vineyard Adventure. So this is really where we get guests out into the estate, but also doing the wine tasting. So the Vineyard Adventure happens in 3 different locations around the estate. So you'll be driven right up into the mountains to start with, where you have your sparkling wine. Then you'll come down and have your white wine in a different area. And then you'll come down further down and have your red wine in a different area. So it's just a really fun way. It's like an afternoon's excursion, really getting out and exploring the estate, but also having the amazing kind of wine tasting experience. As I mentioned, every guest will get a complimentary farm tour every morning that happens. Mountain biking, even if you're not a keen mountain biker, we went with our kids that were quite young at the stage, just up into the mountain bike trails. If you've got clients that are really keen on mountain biking, it's also can be quite testing some of the trails as well. So you can choose whichever way you want to do it, whether you want to have it slightly easier or more challenging. We also have stables at Boschendal, so you can go horse riding through the vineyards, which is really quite amazing. And then our farm shop, which has opened just in the last 6 months. So beautiful new addition, great for guests who want to be a bit more self-catered or independent, but also for guests who are coming in for maybe day trippers who want to just come and see the farm shop. So these are the night markets. This is set up now every Friday. Friday night is the night market, and then Saturday morning is the organic market. The treehouse is our edu-play centre. So as you can see, they've got an amazing outdoor playground, but also they have this incredible centre where the staff will take the kids off. They'll get given their own wellies and hats. They come in here first and they learn about, they've always got something interesting to show them, whether it be a snake skin or whatever else. And then they take them out into the farm. They do all kinds of activities. They go foraging for their food in the farm. They learn about what they're picking, and they then cook their food over an open fire. This is an example of a typical day at the tree house. So it's aged from 4 to 14. And when we were there, my eldest was 11, and he literally did not want to come out at the end of the day. He just absolutely loved it. So it really does cater for the kids from those ages, but just all about getting them out to the farm, enjoying nature, and learning about what the farm has on offer. We also have, as you imagine, this area is just perfect for beautiful weddings. This is our olive press, which is the venue for our weddings and events. Or we can have the main setup outside the manor house, but it's an absolutely favourite spot for weddings, as you can imagine. But other new ideas that have, new concepts that have been introduced in the last really couple of months. Boschendal have been amazing during this period, a time when most people are hunkering down and just trying to survive. Boschendal have just been recreating experiences, and they've had amazing engagement from the domestic market, which is really, is critical at this time for South Africa. And this is one thing they've introduced, which is their drive-in cinema, and this will again carry on next year as well. So this is a brilliant concept. They've got a whole schedule of the drive-in cinema dates. So a really, really fun experience. And obviously being in South Africa, they have the advantage of the beautiful weather. Here in England, I'm not quite sure this will be quite such a success, but it's been hugely popular and a really, really fun initiative. Another thing they've introduced in the last few months is, and they're going to again carry on, is really celebrating the farm and celebrating the different harvesting months. So for example, March was all about celebrating the month of plums, when plums come into harvest. So they did a Sunday plum harvest where people can go out onto the tractor, they go out and pick the plums, they learn about the plums, they then can get involved with creating the plum produce. It's hard to say, the plum produce. And it's just about celebrating the farm and actually what's being grown and what's coming into harvest at that time. And this is something they're going to carry on throughout the season. So they'll then go into citrus season and different seasons. They'll have a kind of celebration of the different produce. This is our Saturday morning market, and they've had this amazing puppet showcase that have come to Boschendal as well. So again, it's just really, they're being so creative in terms of what they offer. And whilst I know a lot of people watching this webinar will have many international guests, I hope what it illustrates is that Boschendal has really just got so much energy and drive in creating new experiences, and not only for the international guests but for the domestic market as well, which is just absolutely critical at this time. But for me, what's unique about Boschendal is having this unbelievable combination of having this huge estate with everything it has to offer on the estate, but yet being in such close proximity to Franschhoek, to Cape Town. So you can either come here and just choose to totally get away from it all, or you can use this as a base to jump off and actually explore the area. I've just got a short film that I'll play for you at the end. Now it's the end of the presentation, but do feel free to write any questions you may have in the Q&A or the chat box whilst you're watching this film. So I hope that gives you a little flavour of Boschendal. I'm just going to stop my screen and I can see the questions that have been asked. Richard, is there a transfer service available for guests going into town for meals, and can they jump on the wine tram here and start and finish there and start and finish here instead of starting in town? Oh, sorry, hold on a sec.
Perched on a rocky peninsula at the
out of control. Yes, very good question. There is a transfer service going into Franschhoek. That's no problem. We can organise transfers or taxis. And very good point. I should have mentioned that the wine tram actually stops at Boschendal as well. So you can start Boschendal, start at Franschhoek, and then go down the wine tram and end up in Boschendal and end up back in the estate, or go the other way. So yeah, that's a very good point. Wilma, do we have access to an image library for Boschendal? Yes, absolutely. I'll send you that all in the follow-up. They have a really thorough where to link, but also I've also got some other images libraries as well I can send you. Elaine says, is there a special accommodation for bride and groom if celebrating a wedding, i.e. honeymoon suite? They tend to actually stay in one of the large garden suites because they are the ones nearest the olive press, which I should have showed you on the map, is literally right between the garden suites and the main manor house. So it depends. They can either stay in there's not a honeymoon suite as such, but they can either stay in the garden suites, or if they want to, they've taken over the whole of the retreat, for example, they can obviously stay in one of the rooms there. do they only have one wedding a day? I don't know, but I would have thought so, because I would have thought it's quite hard to turn them around that quickly, but I can check that and get back to you. We actually have a whole events team that can help with the weddings. When we stayed at the Orchard Cottage, we could order the bikes. It was left by our door ready for next morning. Not sure if you mentioned this, but if it's still the case, yes, you can do that. And also, what they've introduced new to this year as well is they've now got like a kind of like little concierge, like reception desk in Orchard as well. So if guests want anything, they've got someone literally there on tap, so they don't have to call down to the main area or even come down to the main area. So hopefully that is all I've answered all the questions, which is good. But as I mentioned, I will send you all a copy of the recording and other useful information that we have on Boschendal. But thank you very much for joining me this afternoon, and we hope that many of you will join our webinar next week, which is actually an Africa Hub webinar on Sudan. So really, really fascinating destination. So if you haven't yet registered for the Africa Hub, do please register, because you can get access to these fascinating, fascinating destination webinars we've been doing. And yeah, next week's is at 2 o'clock on Sudan. So thank you very much for joining me this afternoon, and look forward to seeing many of you at our next webinar next week. Thanks very much.